The work is extremely slow as the vibrations produced by the hammers and saws have to be monitored constantly. The volume of rock dominating the temple is decreasing. Some blocks are now ready to be transported. But now comes a very delicate stage. Some of the rock has to be cut so finely it must be done by hand. It's so fragile it would disintegrate at the slightest contact with water. Every block has to be numbered exactly to be put back in the same place when reconstructing the temples. 1,047 blocks for the monuments, 7,700 blocks of rock surrounding them, each block weighing anything between 20 and 30 tons. In order to transport these huge masses safely, anchorage bars are fixed to them by means of synthetic gum. The biggest blocks are those of the heads of the statues. The engineers wanted to limit the amount of sawing performed on them. They start by covering the surfaces with a plastic layer. From the first incision of the saw, they must continue the work without pausing day and night. At the slightest pause, the rock could disintegrate. At last, the moment the reporters and photographers have been waiting for all night. Ramses' face is amputated. With one last look at the now naked facade, he is transported to the storage area on the platforms, specially constructed for this purpose. The storage area lies near the chosen new site. The position and number of each block is written out, as would happen with a book in a library. During his short stay there, the Pharaoh king can observe the round roofs of the huts of the thousands of workers. He can even catch a glimpse of the swimming pool, a real mirage in the desert. The level of the Nile now rises above the original level of the temples, but the monument has been saved just in time. And so the days go by. The cutting and transporting of the blocks becomes routine. There are no hitches. Every block is carefully connected to the platform. Meanwhile, the work inside the temple goes on. Every day, new wonders are brought to light. Can we detect a look of awe and maybe of fear in the eyes of the majestic Pharaoh as he sees our modern technology that prevents him from falling to dust? The saw cuts up the pillars with very careful, precise movements. Exposed to the elements, these surfaces are extremely fragile. From now on, even if the waters were to cover the barrier before the expected time, they wouldn't drown more than the Pharaoh's feet and ankles. The last bas-relief is ready to be transported, and by a strange coincidence, it bears the same motto as that of the rescue operation, the unity of the Upper and Lower Nile, the symbol of fertility. Already on the plateau, the workers are getting ready for the reconstruction of the temple. Before that, however, the ground has been levelled and the angle of reconstruction calculated exactly so as to achieve twice in the year that same prodigious light effect. And the reconstruction of the interior of the temple begins. The steel girders which were used to safeguard the dismantling of the temple are used again. Thanks to the precision with which the blocks were cut, the process of reconstruction is easily carried out. The original site is now abandoned and submerged by the Nile. Meanwhile, on the new site, the monuments are brought back to life as each block is fitted into place. And the last phase of the operation, the reassembling of the 20-metre-high colossi. The Pharaoh's face is fixed back on. There's a moment of suspense. The operation is a success. The statues look just the same as before the operation. However, technical expertise in transporting and reconstructing the temples is not everything. The rocky scenery surrounding the temples has to be recreated. It will have to be landscaped over an area of 12,000 square meters, but first a barrier of concrete has to be erected to protect the temples. Above the temple, the dome is 60 meters high. It's made of segments of concrete measuring 1.8 meters at the summit and 2.3 meters at the base. This gigantic construction uses up 10,000 square meters of concrete. The top of the dome is 10 meters thick.